Live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125, myjoyonline.com, and all our social media platforms. This is Joy News Prime. Our headlines this are: as controversy continues to rage regarding the special prosecutor's probe into the activities of the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, we bring you exclusive details from a police investigative report that focused on 9 persons, including Charles Bisu and at least 5 police officers, as it concluded they were not culpable. After 66 years of borrowing 17 IMF bailout, we ask if Ghana is capable of managing its debt. And also on your election headquarters, the journey on MPP flag bearers continues as Alan Chermanting is the first to file his nomination to contest with a call for unity in the party. We have more as some sitting MPP MPs have thrown their support behind him, saying he is the only person who can break the aid. It is imagined that a police CID investigation into the activities of the defunct Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining cleared its then Secretary Charles Bisu and 8 others, including 5 policemen, of any culpability. We're learning that following the broadcast of the documentary Galamsey Fraud by investigative journalist Anas Aremiyao Anas, then chairman of the IMCIM, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, wrote to the Interior Minister asking that he tasks the police CID to investigate the matter. The police concluded that it did not find any of the suspect culpable. It noted, however, that investigative journalist Anas Aremiyao Anas had refused to submit an unedited version of the documentary to the police, as well as opting not to assist with investigations. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akable has more.
There are 2 motions pending in the courts. The first has to do with a request for production of documents, specifically the petition that gave rise to the investigation by the special prosecutor into the activities of Charles Bisu as he served as Secretary of the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. The second one is a motion for injunction asking that the court restrains the special prosecutor from investigating Charles Bisu. Lawyers for Mr. Bisu, led by Nane Jewa, informed the court that they take the view that in order to move the motion for injunction, they would have to have access to the said documents first. And so they consider it important to their request for injunction. Lawyers for the special prosecutor, led by Dr. Isidore Tufo, however, disagreed. Dr. Tufo told the court that nowhere in the substantive case filed by Charles Bisu does he make reference to any such document. And so if after filing their case, they have discovered such fresh document that they believe exist, they should take steps, appropriate steps, and not seek to tie that one to the injunction, to ask the court to hold on until it determines the request for those documents. The judge agreed with this particular view, saying that as far as she is concerned, she doesn't think the 2 motions are connected, but she nonetheless opted to adjourn proceedings because of a request by lawyers for Charles Bisu. The lead counsel, Nane Jewa, had indicated that he is unwell, and so the case has been adjourned to July 4 with the understanding that it is likely that the court will first take the motion for injunction before it considers any other matter. We know that a special prosecutor is already investigating Charles Bisu in respect of the ongoing probe into the activities of the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. This is entirely different from this case here, because this one borders on that investigation that was done by way of the documentary published by investigative journalist Anas Aremiyao Anas. For joining us on the Law Courts Complex, my name is Joseph Akable.
Well, Joseph was in court today when lawyers for Mr. Bisu demanded the said petition. Joseph joins me via Zoom now with more details. First, let's refresh our memories. What exactly was the documentary Galamsey Fraud about?
The documentary was published by investigative journalist Anas Aremiyao Anas, and it looked into the activities of the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. One topical issue that it dealt with had to do with the fact that at the time, the IMCIM were issuing what they indicated to be stickers that they were issuing to the various mining companies. And so the point was made that there was an attempt by some individuals who claim to represent one ORR Enterprises to make payments to specifically to Charles Bisu
to enable them obtain those tickets to go and undertake illegal mining contrary to law. And so that is what Galamsey fraud put out by way of the allegations against Charles Bissiou and other officials of the IMCIM and some police officers who are said to have aided the company to circumvent the processes in order to undertake the mining activity.
Run us through the individuals who were investigated by the police.
So we know that Charles Bissiou, secretary to the IMCIM, there was also one Andious who is described as a businessman, Apia Hene upon Jimmy, a national security operative, Obed Osebwachi, also a businessman and a small-scale miner. Then there are Inspector Kennedy Frempong, Inspector Matthew Arno, Corporal Nicholas Dakwa, and Corporal Bafuewa, who are all of the VIPPU. It is the very important personality protection unit of the Ghana Police Service. And finally, Corporal Samson Bimpon of the Ghana Air Force, Accra.
And what were the key findings and the conclusion?
So in terms of the key findings, it indicated that the evidence showed that ORR Resource Enterprise did not provide the small-scale permit and environmental agency report as they were asked to do so. But in terms of the specific allegations against them, the police report says none of the suspects in the case, including Charles Bissiou, was found to have circumvented the laid-down procedures of the IMCIM in favor of ORR Resource Enterprises. It goes on to say that all the suspects denied the allegations of bribery. It was observed that the documentary which was aired is not a true reflection of what transpired between these suspects and the said Yaoben of ORR Resource Enterprise. Investigations has further revealed that no mining activity has taken place at the site of ORR Enterprise, which is located at Daoso in the Amansia South District of the Ashanti region, as portrayed by the documentary. The investigations primarily relied on the documentary and other sources, as already indicated. Anas Remy Anas failed to avail himself to assist investigations and also provide a copy of an edited version of the documentary. He said he had already filed a petition with the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and moreover, the key witness, Yao Ben, is also not available to assist with investigations. So in terms of the evidence available, the conclusion was that none of the suspects was found culpable of any of the offenses alleged.
We know the OSP investigated this matter. Any idea what he found?
In fact, the conclusion that the OSP reached, as far as we understand, was quite different from what the police reached. I mean, he came to the conclusion that this is a matter that he could prosecute Charles Bissiou for. In fact, we understand he had concluded an investigation and was on the verge of filing charges relative to corruption and corruption-related offenses against Charles Bissiou when Charles Bissiou in December 2022 filed illegal processes against the special prosecutor. So the special prosecutor, we understand, is hoping that once those legal hurdles are scaled, he will bring charges against Charles Bissiou.
Well, one issue of contention has been the petition that gave rise to the investigation with the OSP. We have heard Mr. Bissiou's lawyers claim it may have been authored by Special Prosecutor Kisi Ejabeng. What did you find?
So we have cited two documents. One is the petition that was sent to the Office of Special Prosecutor. It's signed by Anas Aremi Anas and asking that he investigates Charles Bissiou and the other officials relative to the documentary Galamsey fraud that he published. Then the second document is a response from the then Special Prosecutor Martin K. Amidu, in which he makes reference to the letter that was written by Anas Aremi Anas, and he addresses this letter to Anas Aremi Anas. And so the documents that we've seen, on the face of it, it appears that the petition was filed by the Anas Aremi Anas and not the current Special Prosecutor, who we know in times past was the lawyer for Anas Aremi Anas.
All right, grateful to you, Joseph Akable there. Moving on to other stories. Despite having a huge debt cancellation 2 decades ago, Ghana still loses almost 30% of its annual revenue to payment on its external debt alone, and is currently under a 17th IMF program hoping to salvage an age-old economic problem, debt crisis. In our latest Hotline documentary, Joy News' Isaac Kofi takes us on a historical ride tracking Ghana's over 6 decades of ballooning public debt stock.
We're described as not credit-worthy. No creditors will continue to give us credit lines to run the business of government for the nation. And since we had only 4 years to prove that we could govern, we might be worse off than what we inherited. So we decided to go the HIPIC way, and it worked.
Ghana was the second biggest beneficiary of debt relief, literally in the world, though this is a list of African countries. In terms of the proportion of your GDP, and as a proportion of how much debt that was forgiven, Ghana was number 2 on the list of African countries at least. So you see that we had huge benefits from HIPIC. More than $6 billion of money was freed up for us.
The borrowing became a vicious cycle, and Ghana couldn't escape the trap even after debt forgiveness. Ghana discovered oil, and by 2011, the country had started producing and exporting its first barrels of crude oil.
I do not want Ghanaians to think that the oil discovery is the end of everything. That is the end of the journey. If anything, it's the beginning of the journey. We want to make sure that we derive the maximum benefit from the oil, but that should not take away attention from the other very important areas, agriculture. No nation can flourish without a strong agricultural base.
In January 2011, Ghana was set to become the fastest growing economy in sub-Saharan Africa, as projected by the World Bank, with an end-period growth rate of 13.4%. Indeed, Ghana ended 2011 with a growth rate of 14%. By 2015, Ghana's economy was in trouble, hobbled by widening current account and budget deficits, rampant inflation, and a depreciating currency. Credit dried up as interest rates rose and banks' bad loans piled up.
Precisely because the structure of the economy explains a lot of the things that you see at the macro level and even at the micro level. So that is fine, because essentially we don't add margins to the primary commodities. And look, the world thrives on margins. To the extent that you are not adding margins, you are not getting value, and therefore you don't command price in the market.
After several considerations, Ghana was back to the IMF seeking a fresh bailout. This was our 16th.
But by the time we went to Sinchi and looked at the policies and the rest, we realized, that it was going to be difficult. And then as, was the case, the development partners also decided that, they didn't think we could handle this problem ourselves. They look to the IMF, which is the lender of last resort.
It will be the last time we'll have to go to the IMF again for any such program. This will be the IMF program to end all programs.
One target of Ghana's 16th IMF program was to help restore our debt burden to sustainable levels.
The 16th IMF program actually failed on one of its objectives, which was to substantially bring down debt. So the 16th IMF program really did not do much in terms of bringing Ghana's debt to a sustainable level.
Now, part 1 of the A Nation That Begs, titled The Genesis, airs tonight on the Joy News channel at 8:30 p.m. Now, 2 other stories. Flag bearer aspirant of, so you're still watching the Joy News Prime on the Joy News channel. Now, flag bearer aspirant of the governing New Patriotic Party, Alan Kojo Chamanting, is calling for unity in the party as it gears towards electing leadership ahead of the 2024 general elections. According to the former Trade and Industry Minister, who was speaking after filing his nomination at the party's headquarters, the contest is an internal exercise and should rather solidify the image of the party to be able to face and defeat its main contender and not bruise it. He has therefore impressed on his colleague aspirant and the delegate to be decorous in their campaigns. My colleague Samuel Mbra has more in this report.
The flag bearer hopeful, Alan Chamantin, said the party does not just need a leader, but a flag bearer that will break the 8 in the 2024 elections, and it can only take a united front to achieve it.
I want to use this opportunity to make a passionate appeal to the delegates who will be voting in our National Delegates Conference on the 4th of November. As delegates, you are representing not only your own interests, but also the interests of the rank and file of our party. What the rank and file of our party are asking for is that they need a new leader who will satisfy 5 basic conditions. They are looking for a leader who will help our party to break the 8 in 2024 and help NPP to succeed itself in power.
A group of sitting MPs of the governing NPP have thrown their full support behind the candidature of Alan Chamantin. The MPs, numbering 7, were part of the campaign team of Alan Chamantin, who were at the NPP headquarters to file his nomination forms. According to them, the former Trade and Industry Minister is the right candidate to lead the party, a reason they are throwing support behind him. MP for Lambosie, Bright Bachi, spoke on their behalf.
The reason is that we want power in 2025, and there's no one in NPP now to give us power other than Alan Kojo Chamantin.
Do you think the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has already been marketed? He's popular than Alan?
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And that is not what the grassroots are saying. If you are in touch with the grassroots, we have someone that is popular amongst MPP or popular in government, but not popular at the grassroots, not popular amongst the Ghanaian people. Alan Kojo Chamantin is someone even members of other political parties are craving for. That once we bring him, they will support us to make him president because they see the value in him, they see the substance in him, they see the quality in him. His capacity to build this country is what everybody, and that is why I stood out from amongst all the Northern MPs to say Alan is the person.
So you are representing all the Northern MPs?
I'm not representing them. I stood out amongst them. I'm the only Northern MPP MP who supports Alan's candidature.
Alan Kojo Chamantin is the first person to file nomination among the 10 aspirants that have picked nomination forms so far. Reporting for Joy News, Samuel Mbura, MPP headquarters, Asylum Down.
Now, there are more calls for an independent investigation into circumstances leading to the killing of 5 men. The Ghana Police Service says engaged its men in a gunfight. Our visit to the community has revealed some residents have fled over fears of reprisals from other members of the gang suspected to be land guards. Now, there are more calls for an independent probe into circumstances surrounding the shooting to the death of the 5 persons. Here is Ranking Member of Parliament's Defense and Interior Committee, James Agalga.
Extrajudicial killings of suspected criminals by the police in recent times is becoming one too many. Any call for an independent probe into the killing of 5 suspects, whether they are suspected land guards or whatever, cannot be justified. The police has always given some justification that normally they engage them in gunfights and they overpower them and kill. But listen, the butchering of 5 people to death cannot be justified in any circumstance. Any call for an independent probe is welcome. You would recall that 2 police officers who were in police custody, and the suspicion was that they were involved in the bullion van robbery incident, were shot dead by their own colleagues, and the justification was that they took them to a place around Boteman to assist them to fish out for some of the suspects who probably took part in planning the bullion van attack. In the process, the suspected criminals who were in their hideout shot at the police, and in the course of a gunfight, the 2 suspects were the ones who ended up losing their lives. Look, the incidents are becoming one too many. There can be no justification for these killings. And I am particularly worried because following the establishment of the Police Intelligence Department, it appears that there have been some abuse because the incidents are becoming one too many.
There are some people who are saying that one way to eliminate all the doubts surrounding some of these deaths in high-risk operations like this one is to equip the police with body cameras. And I remember sometime in November 2022, the Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry, said at a press conference in Parliament and that the police, they've acquired some body cameras for the police. How do you think we can, stop some of these deaths that you describe as extrajudicial killings?
Well, Maxwell, if that was a commitment the minister made on behalf of government, and so we would be demanding answers from the minister because Once the promise was made, if they haven't provided the officers with those body cams, and we have repeated incidents of extrajudicial killings, which are unacceptable by any stretch of imagination. We can't justify these killings. I mean, then it means that the minister may have misled us, and we'll have quite a number of questions for him to respond to in the coming days.
Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety, Nanaya Akwada, says this has become necessary because there have been many instances where police shot and killed innocent citizens.
Recent times, if you look at the last 16 months or so, most police actions targeted at gangs or what you want to call organized crime have, all concluded very violently. We've had the police coming out to 5 deaths, 7 deaths, 3 deaths here and there. And we think that we are gradually beginning to see a certain affinity of police operations with dead bodies. I think it is not something that we should encourage in our scheme of things in terms of how the police operate. That the police must be accountable to us in this democracy. We are living in an era of rule of law. The single institution that is tasked with ensuring that the principle of rule of law operates effectively is the police institution. And so if they want to operate under clouds, under darkness, without transparency, without accountability, what they are doing is that they are undermining their own legitimacy, which will translate into the legitimacy also of the government. And we will not have a country, we will not have a democracy. And so it is absolutely important that the police hold themselves as accountable to us. It is absolutely important that their practices and their operations are clear with us, the citizens, so that we can be on their side. As it stands now, everybody is skeptical of the police. I am skeptical of police. The Bureau of Public Safety is skeptical of the police. And you from the media just mentioning here that you suspect extrajudicial killing, that is serious. And so the police should not give us any opportunity to even begin to think that they have accrued powers onto themselves to the extent that they determine who should leave and who should not.
A security analyst Adam Bonner says the calls for an independent probe are in order. He joins us via Zoom now. Grateful. Dr. Adam Bonner is with us on Zoom. Grateful for joining us now. What will this independent probe help us achieve?
Well, good evening. For me, I will say that any form of investigations or independent probe is okay, but it will help us achieve, some level of confidence, transparency with regards to the police's actions. If you ask me, I will say that 2 years ago, the discussion was not this. The discussion was Adedenpo, where some police officers or a police officer had been shot and, in a bullion van and money stolen. 2 years ago, we had, an armed robbery taking place in front of the police headquarters, where a forest bureau was robbed. 2 years ago, we had myriad of, violent robberies that were taking place in this country. And so as far as I'm concerned, I would rather want to look at it in a more balanced format. Because be as it may, as we call for further investigations into this, let's also be very careful not to dampen the spirit of, obviously, the police officers. We need to be very circumspect because then in your intro, you mentioned that residents of Botiano are fleeing the area because they are afraid that there will be reprisal attacks. What it means is that there are challenges in that area when it comes to the canker of, what do you call that, landguardism, to the extent that we needed to pass a special law to deal with landguardism in this country. But that is not to say the police should use too much or excessive force in dealing with landguardism. But of course, if you ask me, I will tell you that the law gives each and every one of us, including the police, the military, everybody, to the right of self-defense. And so mine is that we need to have a balanced conversation. 2 years ago, around this time, we were told that it is only in heaven that crimes don't take place. And so I would want to have a more balanced conversation so that when we are critiquing the police, we have to also remember that we have come from a situation where daylight robberies were so rampant, so much so that if you entered a bank and took 100,000 Ghana cedis, chances are that you could be gunned down and your money stolen from you. And so, yes, let's conduct more investigations, but let's not do anything that will seem to suggest that we want to empower those who are terrorizing us in this country. I mean, the whole of this country, we are surrounded by, call them criminal elements who are armed to the teeth. So, yes, 5 people have been killed, and I do know that the necessary protocols, when there are deaths, these deaths must go through a certain process of investigation. Yes, an independent probe. Why not? If we have to have one, we should. But the truth is that in your intro, you mentioned residents were running. Why are they running? If we didn't have landguardism or landguards terrorizing people in Botiano, I'm not making an excuse for anybody, but mine is that let's have a more balanced conversation because we've come from a situation where even me, I was too afraid sometimes to step out of my home because the armed guns were everywhere. You know, moving around in motorbikes with pump action guns, AK-47, and shooting at people randomly. Is that where we want to go to? No. So let's be a bit circumspect when we are talking about these things, because for me, I would not want that situation. I want a situation where the police go after them. Okay. But of course, to be more professional when dealing with criminal elements in our society.
Okay. So if this probe should come on, what exactly will it help us achieve, really, in the end, at the end?
Well, it would let us achieve the fact that, the officers who went there, they obviously wouldn't be disclosing, all their strategies to us. I don't expect them to do that, but it will let whatever doubts we have would be cleared. If there has to be any probe at all, I'm told there are some investigations that are ongoing, but mine is that if there has to be any probe, it will help us know, in fact, whether the officers acted in excess of whatever power they have, or they overreacted, or what happened. We need to know all that because we were not there. But what I've checked on the ground, the Botiano, is that to the extent that some time ago, one of the traditional leaders was shot in the thigh. Okay, and so it means that it's a serious situation, and these people will shoot at you. The police said they shot at them and they shot back. So we need to know at what point were they shot at and they shot back. All these things, when there is a federal probe, I don't know whether there has to be an independent probe, but when there has to be a federal probe, it will let us establish the fact that the police officers involved acted professionally. But I don't want to believe that. Okay. Yes, of course, we once upon a time had, as one say, why some people were killed. But fast forward, I want to believe that police officers are supposed to. Today, police officers are supposed to be a bit more professional, and I don't expect them to get into communities and start shooting at people. So, yes, let's see what happens in the next coming days.
In November 2022, the Interior Minister on the floor of Parliament said the government will provide police officers with body cameras so that it can give us minute-by-minute account of police operations. That is yet to happen. How do you think these body cams will be helpful in such high-risk operations?
Well, the police already have some body cameras, but you see, just as we have one police officer to about 800 or so citizens instead of 500, what I know is that they already have some body cameras, and it looks like they are taking delivery of some others, I am told, and so they already have some. The only thing is that it is the numbers. And so probably we should be finding out, can we get to a point where we are going to have every police officer to one body camera? Once we get to that point, then it becomes more transparent. But funding, how much resource do we even put into policing and in fact our security? Some of us have been crying and saying that we are taxing for street light, we are taxing for everything, but there is no allocated or dedicated funds for policing in this country. Once there is no dedicated funds, then the Minister of Interior will come and promise. But the truth is that he doesn't have the checkbook to sign and say, Finance Minister, I need you to give me maybe, let's say, $20 million for me to procure. And so I think this conversation must continue. But I am aware that there are some, because I think they deployed some in Kumewu, and they deployed some in other areas. But I think it is the numbers. I'm also aware that they are expecting to have some deliveries. The only thing is that it is the numbers, because the police at the moment should need at least a minimum of 50,000 body cameras for both plain clothes and what do you call it, uniform officers, so that these doubts and accountability issues will be a thing of the past.
Okay. Now, in 10 seconds for me, as you say, we don't have enough body cameras. So why wouldn't the people or the police persons who are going for such high-risk operations carry body cameras, even as we don't have enough?
I don't speak for them, but you see, if as we speak, if God forbid your station comes under attack, police officers are supposed to be quickly mobilized and move there. And so a police officer who is on duty somewhere, who is not wearing a body camera, is likely to be redeployed to your area to ensure that if anyone wants to attack your station, they defend the station. What it means is that until such a time that we can have one police officer to one body camera, it will be difficult to say every police operation or every immigration operation, a body camera must be involved, because some of them happens the spur of the moment. And when it happens, I don't speak for them. But when I'm only speaking out of the knowledge I have, working with all the institutions, that the spur of the moment, you can't say, all of you, come to the police headquarters, take body cameras, because the body cameras are woefully inadequate. So if you've deployed them in Kumasi for an operation, or you've deployed them in 5 regions of the country, and something is happening, you cannot wait to call back those body cameras before you deploy. I think we should be pushing for one police officer, one body camera in this country. Once we get to that point, the issue of accountability in policing will be a thing of the past. But until then, I think we need to continue to push the states, in fact, the government, to put in more resources into policing. They didn't have helicopters, now they have them. Now, if you rob, they can go into the air and trail you. But I think a lot more needs to be done. But the government has done something. I want to see more being done in policing.
Okay. I'm grateful to you, Dr. Adam Bona, for joining us here. He is a security analyst there. This is still Joy News Prime. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. Now, the newly sworn-in Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo has made a commitment to leverage technology to improve the efficiency of the judiciary. Despite efforts made in the past 2 decades to automate court operations, only 62% of court currently utilize computers as part of their workflow. Justice Torkornoo, during her inaugural address after her swearing-in ceremony at the Jubilee House, stressed the need to acquire electronic devices for capturing court records and establish a networked infrastructure among registries and stakeholders to enable the next level of automation.
Over the same period of the last 2 decades, the automation of courts has morphed into the digitalization of court processes that allow for electronic filing, electronic case distribution, creation of electronic dockets, and the conduct of virtual trials. So, Your Excellency, if we have been so busy, why are Ghanaians still feeling the pain and toll of inefficiency in delivery of court services? If the leaders of the judiciary have acknowledged that they owe Ghanaians a duty to remedy the inefficiencies, ineffectiveness of litigation, and taking strong steps to reduce the hard and tough terrain of doing business in Ghana. That comes from interminable court proceedings over investments in land, estate settlements, business transaction disputes. Why do these conditions persist? Your Excellency, it is easy to see why these problems persist. Despite the length of time of overhauling rules of court to allow deeper efficiency into court operations, the introduction of specialized courts, and the applications of technology, many courts continue to use the laborious, inefficient models of taking evidence in manuscript and managing administration in the old pedantic ways. After 2 decades of tackling the issue of automation, only 62% of courts use computers as part of their work. And computerization is only the first level of automation of court processes. After acquiring electronic devices to capture records of courts, the registries and offices of stakeholders must be networked in order to allow for the next level of automation. This is a national burden, and we are slowed down by any sluggishness in the nation's digitalization drive. Currently, our records show that only 26% of courts are networked, and only 12% of courts have been brought into the bracket of full automation in the operation through digitalization of their processes.
Now, the Urban Roads Department in the Ashanti region has started patching potholes at Bokrom and Oforikrom, 2 communities featured in the Joy News GH Potholes exhibition. The Oforikrom and Bokrom road networks are riddled with deep circular depressions as motorists experience vehicular damages that go beyond mechanical repairs. Love FM's Nana Boache Yadom, who first reported the danger and inconvenience of plying the road, goes back to assess the rate of patching.
The Oforikrom and Bokrom road networks were inundated with several deadly potholes which leaves motorists and commuters at risk. Some road users describe the impoverished potholes as life-threatening pits.
Almost 3 months, 2 accidents.
I came across an accident almost a month ago. As the government institutions make efforts to patch the holes, some concerned residents fill the riddled bitumen with debris to lessen the impact of vehicles slumping into holes. Sometimes they attempt to fill these holes with coconut husk. Joy News' Ghana Potholes exhibition exposed the atrocious state of the Kumasi, Oforikrom and Bokrom roads. But the Department of Urban Roads has begun patching up these potholes. Some motorists using these roads expressed their gratitude.
Joy News de bia ehwemo ne enim adwuma so amoye tie kan say
I want to say thank you to Joy News for the work you've been doing. We watch you and know everything you've been doing because these potholes have been here for over a year now. We only woke up to see them patching them this morning.
Joy News ena motumi abom modena aban yesi adwuma we dia de kan say Yankupon Shiramu, no Mujman and Yankoso.
Yebetumi Adamasi, Yebetumi Adamasi, Bebre, Siciano, Mosono.
We say thank you so much for helping us get our road fixed. We thank you so much.
Mompeni for no yede Yankopon Asida de Masi Bebre, Samo Mutumi. Abua my so no kwan no ayeye ama ye ntino yesram ye damase monkoso anam ye den momoaye na sisia no de edu no de eden pa epamacho bebre.
Now potholes patching began in Kumasi after Joy News' intensive campaign on the poor state of our roads. You can see that the contractors are on site patching up every single pothole here in the Oforikrom municipality. For Joy News, my name is Nana Boache Yadom.
Highways are generally smooth in nature, serving as quick route for drivers. But that's not the case of the highway from Kaneshie's First Light to Odoko Waterworks, which has huge portions severely destroyed by mini swimming pools, stagnant water bearing the semblance of creamy beverages, as well as a mother of all devastation, potholes. In today's edition of Joy News' Ghana's Potholes exhibition, my colleague Parkwesi Shandov captures the deplorable spectacle which has become a headache for both drivers and commuters alike.
Creamy beverages always delight the tongue. But splashes of the ones on the streets of Accra do not satisfy drivers. Instead, it makes their tongues wag with complaints and endless frustrations.
The situation has persisted for the past 7 years. We've been pleading with authorities, but to no avail. Because of the poor nature of the road, a lot of people have actually lost their lives while crossing it.
But how do these creamy beverages end up on the streets in the first place? Potholes. They are served and produced by potholes, a menace on almost all the roads in the country. Apart from serving what looks like beverages on the streets, potholes also create other embarrassing scenes on our roads. This is not a beach resort, neither is it a spot for relaxation. It's actually a lane on the Odoko Malam Highway. Unfortunately, the place has now become a resting place for water, as you can see, and anytime it rains, it becomes a severe challenge not only for drivers but commuters alike. Terrible, devastating, and a real pain. These are some of the strong adjectives commuters use in describing the glaring potholes sitting in the middle of some parts of the Kaneshi Malam Highway, a principal road network in the capital, Accra. A brief inspection of some parts of the highway from Kaneshi First Light to Odoko Waterworks indeed affirmed that the sentiments of road users are not far-fetched, neither are they exaggerations.
But some things need to be said
The situation is simply an eyesore, posing a lot of unbearable inconveniences for commuters. Some of the road users who spoke to Joy News could simply not hide their displeasure.
Charlie, this one ain't no good, honestly. Every time, in less than like 6 months, it gets back to, worse. Yeah, it's really bad. This road originally was very, very good. They came with a certain machine and then they just graded the whole road. And the thing was supposed to fix it some way, somehow. And that's what actually started this whole thing.
It's very bad. And this road, they do the road. I don't know the kind of things they are using to do the road. If they do the road more than 1 month or less than 1 month, then there's damage again. And we are pleading to the government to come and do the road for us.
The cars are not able to move freely here due to the gullies, creating a very awkward situation all the time.
I wonder why authorities can't fix the situation. As usual, they are waiting for a child of a high-profile person to die on the road before they get to work. Meanwhile, if the youth block the road in protest now, they will be questioned. The road from here, that is Kaneshi First Light to Odoko, has some issues. Authorities should at least tackle some of the issues, even if not all.
Just in the middle of the road at Odoko Waterworks is a more dire situation. A pool not designed by nature sits openly in the road, created by constant friction between car tires and the road. The effects of the mini swimming pool at Odoko Waterworks have far-reaching consequences. Ordinarily, road users stand on the last lane, which has now been blocked by water, to board vehicles. But the potholes have compelled them to stand at a much riskier location to get on vehicles. This, they further lament, is worrying.
The water is just destroying the road, creating manholes on the road. The water has also blocked the road, so we are pleading with authorities to promptly address the situation.
The menace is increasingly severe, and the one thing the commuters want is nothing but an immediate solution. For the scores of road users who are not happy with the numerous potholes that have littered the stretch from Kaneshi First Light all the way to Odoko, their concern is that government must speedily intervene in order to avert the inconveniences that the situation normally poses for them. For Joy News, my name is Pakwesi Shandoff.
All right, so welcome back. Time for us to bring you showbiz. And Becky Beggs is already in the house. And guess what? She has a big surprise. Well, I don't know. Becky, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Let's talk about everything happening in the world of entertainment. I'm talking about everything that you missed at the weekend. Here is a wrap of the biggest events that happened at the weekend.
It's the start of a new week, and I am pleased to update you with all the big events that you've missed at the weekend. First, let's talk about the 2023 edition of Rep Your Jersey, powered by Hit 103.9 FM. The event was climaxed on Saturday at the Aviation Social Center as the 12th edition of the event thrilled patrons on the grounds and through the airwaves. Hundreds of football fans were treated to an exciting Champions League final viewing experience. Now let's move away from that and talk about Joy Prime's music reality show Cues and Lyrics. This weekend, TM Music wins Best Performer of the Night for the second time. I tell you, Sunday's show saw great performances by contestants as they were tasked to celebrate Africa through music.
I know you're good as well, so what happened?
I give you green light, Toro,
Your very first note, off.
I can't stop loving you. My baby good, my baby all the things I need. My baby bust up the silence, so
Who is going to be the star performer? TM Music.
Some good news for Ghana as Kamido has been nominated in the Viewer's Choice Best New International Act category at this year's BET Awards. Yes, Kamido gained international prominence when he released a remix of Sugar Cane, which features Mayukun and Daco Vibes in 2022. After topping various international music charts, he won Afrobeat Song of the Year and Best International Collaboration with Sugar Cane Remix at the 2023 Vodafone Ghana Music Awards. The BET Awards is an American awards show that was established in 2001 by the Black Entertainment Television Network to celebrate Black entertainers and other minorities in music, film, sports, and philanthropy. Congratulations to Kamido.
Oh yeah, so I have a surprise for you from
That's what I've been waiting for since
Strange World. For those of you who don't know what Strange World is the first Ghanaian telenovela to hit your screens. So we have dates when you should expect Strange World on Adum TV. If we have that message from Majid, please, let's take that.
Friday, 9 p.m. at Adum TV, Strange World premieres.
Every Friday, 9 p.m. on Adum TV, and an omnibus Sunday at 3 p.m. The Lord bless you.
Well, so now that we have a date, Brace, this is from Strange World. Okay. That's for you. And you get a pen to go.
Thank you. Oh, Strange World. Grateful.
This is for me. I am, wondering why I got a condom from Strange World.
Because I saw Ebony as one of the sponsors. So they have to,
Okay. But I'm a virgin and I don't intend to break my virginity right now. So what do we do with the condoms? We give it to...
I can also take it, so maybe we'll look for one of us and hand it
So
over.
whoever is interested in the condom, please log on to Adum TV. Just watch Strange World. I don't know. But there was a special premiering for Strange World and on Adum TV this weekend, which is Friday, and you get to, see everything. The condoms are 3.
All right,
I don't know.
thank you. Now, so that's all in entertainment, and that's how we wrap up today's bulletin for you. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. Prime Business is up next. My thanks to Strange World for this one.
Thank you, Strange.